Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into a totally wild biological story. I mean, think about it. Every single living thing, including you and me, started as just a tiny microscopic dot. But how do we go from that tiny dot to complex, fully grown beings? And why do we end up having our dad's nose or our mom's height? That right there is the ultimate puzzle we are going to unpack today, zooming all the way from the macroorganism down to the micro-DNA. The entire framework of life on Earth relies on the answers to this exact question. It is this incredible, non-stop system of replication, growth, and information transfer that's happening inside us every single second, completely without us even thinking about it.
Here is our quick roadmap for this explainer. First, growth and cells. Then, amitosis, mitosis, and meiosis. And finally, the foundation of heredity. Basically, we'll look at the three main ways cells divide and then wrap up by looking at the actual biological code that makes you, well, you.
Part 1. Growth and cells, the prerequisites for life and multiplication. Whether it's a massive redwood tree growing taller or a kid growing up, it all boils down to cells making more cells. But, a cell can't just magically split in two without doing some serious prep work first.
The terminology here is actually super helpful. Think of a cell like a little fluid-filled sac with a control center, the nucleus, right in the middle. That nucleus holds our genetic blueprint. So to make a new cell, first, you gotta split that control center. That's called karyokinesis. Karyon means nucleus, and kinesis means division. Once the nucleus is safely split in two, the fluid part of the cell, the cytoplasm, finally divides. We call that cytokinesis. You absolutely need both steps to successfully create a brand new cell.
Now, because cells don't all have the exact same job, they don't all divide the same way. Check this out. We've got three fundamental pathways. A simple single-celled organism uses a fast track called amitosis. Our everyday body cells use a highly structured process called mitosis. And our reproductive cells use an incredibly specialized math trick called meiosis. Let's hit that fast track first.
Part 2. Amitosis, or direct division. In biology, the prefix a usually means without or not. So, amitosis literally just means not mitosis. It completely skips all the complicated, time-consuming stages of standard cell division.
A quick side note here about the terminology. We use the terms mother cell and daughter cell, but it has literally nothing to do with gender. The original dividing cell is the mother. When it divides, the new cells are daughters, simply because they possess the inherent biological potential to one day become mother cells themselves. It is all about reproductive potential.
For single-celled organisms like bacteria, yeast, or amoebas, this is the ultimate survival hack. Imagine a water balloon with a tinier balloon inside it. In amitosis, that inner balloon, the nucleus, just stretches out like a dumbbell and pinches in half. Right after that, the outer balloon pinches inward and splits. Bam! One cell becomes two. It's the only time in life where multiplying and dividing mean the exact same thing. No complex machinery required. When your survival depends on rapid multiplication, this direct division is incredibly efficient. Moving to Part 3. Mitosis, equational division. If amitosis was a quick, rough chop, mitosis is like a highly choreographed biological ballet. This is the multi-stage process happening literally right now in your skin, your bones, and in the growing roots and stems of plants.
Before we get into the steps, let's decode some Greek roots. Normally, the DNA inside a cell is just a loose, tangled mess of threads called chromatin. But think about it, you can't cleanly divide a tangled mess without losing some pieces. So, when division starts, those colored threads, chromatin, pack tightly into short, thick bodies called chromosomes. Soma means body. Finally, when these thick bodies split right down the middle, the two halves are called chromatids. It's all the same genetic material, just changing shape for the big move.
So, mitosis uses an indirect process to safely guard our genetic code through 5 very distinct sequential phases. The cell absolutely cannot skip a step here. To make sure every new cell gets the exact same genetic instructions as the original, it goes through a super strict checklist.
Let's look at the setup phases. Prophase is the longest one. The cell gets larger, and those tangled threads pack down into those classic X-shaped chromosomes. Each X is pinched in the middle at a spot called the centromere. Then, blink and you'll miss it, prometaphase kicks in. The nuclear walls just dissolve, and the cell builds the spindle apparatus, which is basically a network of biological cables that will move the chromosomes around.
Next up, metaphase.
Those biological cables pull all the chromosomes into a perfectly straight line right down the middle or equator of the cell. Then, this is the cool part, the centromeres snap. We enter anaphase, where the cables reel those separated halves, the chromatids, toward opposite ends of the cell. As they get dragged through the cell fluid, they actually bend into these tiny V, L, J, or I shapes depending on exactly where they were pinched. It is quite literally a race to the poles.
Finally, we hit telophase, which is basically hitting the undo button on prophase. The nuclear walls rebuild around the two separated sets of DNA, then cytokinesis steps in and literally slices the cell body in two. Now, because we started with one cell with a specific number of chromosomes and ended with two identical cells with the exact same number, mitosis is perfectly named equational division. The equation balances perfectly.
Part 4. Meiosis, reductional division. Now we are shifting gears to the highly specialized division that actually creates the next generation. Let's see how this builds upon what we just learned, but with a massive twist.
Here's why meiosis is an absolute game changer. Think about human cells for a second. We have 46 chromosomes. If a mom and a dad both passed on all 46, their kid would have 92. The grandkids would have 184. I mean, within a few generations, the whole biological system would just completely collapse. So meiosis acts as this ingenious biological halving mechanism. This happens exclusively in reproductive organs. Basically, the nucleus divides twice, but the chromosomes only duplicate once. It's a brilliant math trick. The result? Instead of 2 identical cells, you get 4 specialized reproductive cells, like sperm or eggs, and each one contains exactly half the genetic material, known as a haploid state. This reduction completely guarantees the stability of our species over millions of years.
And that brings us to our final section, Part 5, the foundation of heredity, passing the torch of life. We've talked about how cells divide and pack up their payload, but what exactly is that payload? Let's talk about how traits actually get passed down.
46. That is the magic number. Every single somatic cell in your body, your skin, your liver, your brain has exactly 46 chromosomes containing the absolute master instruction manual for your existence. But, of course, that number didn't just appear out of nowhere.
Thanks to that reductional division in meiosis we just covered, a father's sperm cell carries exactly 23 chromosomes, and a mother's egg cell carries exactly 23. When they fuse together during fertilization to form a zygote, which is the very first cell of a brand new life, the math clicks right back into place. 23 plus 23 gets us right back to a genetically unique 46.
Now, if we actually zoom in and peer inside those 46 chromosomes, past all the tightly packed proteins holding them together, we find the real chemical basis of life. DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, looks just like a spiraling, twisted ladder. Its counterpart, RNA, usually acts like a single-stranded messenger. The truly mind-blowing part is that the chemical rungs of this DNA ladder literally spell out the exact instructions for building a human being.
To put it simply, the chromosome is the vehicle, the DNA is the chemical instruction manual, and the gene is a specific sentence inside that manual that dictates a trait, like your height or your eye color. Some of these genes are dominant and will proudly show up in your physical appearance. But others, they're recessive, just kind of hiding in the background of your code. You carry traits from both parents, and this super delicate chemical interplay decides exactly what gets expressed.
Which brings us to a massive question. If almost every single cell in your body contains the exact same 46 chromosomes with traits from both your parents, what actual biological mechanisms are flipping the switches to determine which traits stay hidden and which ones make you, you? I'll leave you with that provocative thought to ponder. Your entire genetic history is locked inside almost every single cell in your body. It is an absolute marvel of cellular engineering. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.